What I thought I would do is create some content around the creation of this because, it's pretty cool. I came in here in one day and I said, hey, let's do this thing. And then we switched over to VS Code. And with Claude Code, I just got started. This is all Claude Code thinking, doing its thing. It takes several minutes. I don't have to be watching this. I'm not engaged in all of this as it happens. I tune in at this point when it tells me, and I read this and I see if it did what I wanted it to do. And I don't remember, but based on what it's saying, the globe doesn't move anymore. It stays dead center on the axis and the lens shifts instead. Ah, yes. This was the problem. This is when I shifted over. And the problem it had, just based on that one prompt, it had created this thing, but when I moved the earth to the left or right, it kind of like turned it oblong shaped, egg shaped. So that wasn't good. So I said, hey man, it's doing this. That's not great. And this was it fixing all of that. So now it says your local tune now asks you to sign in. That's the other thing. I said, that's a side effect of you adding the Supabase keys to local. Once auth is configured, it applies everywhere. So what you test locally matches production, blah, blah, blah. So it's like it takes these extra steps that I didn't even occur to me and sets things up. Anyway, so here's my response. This is absolutely fantastic. Let's add another feature. At the top of the left panel, create 3 tabs: Earth, Text, and Effects. The Earth tab will display what we currently have. The Text tab will display a text editor that allows the user to manage all aspects of the text: title, subtitle, description with controls of position, alignment, color, sizes, etc. The Effects tab will have some of the effects that can be found in the normie website, such as cartwheel, spin, etc. Hold off on effects though. Let's start by providing text controls. And it goes off and it does its thing. This is Claude Code working on it. Working. I'm doing something else. And what I do have to do is come back and say, yes, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. Yes, you can do that over and over again. Okay, 3 tabs. Earth is everything you already had. Effects is there, but grayed out, visible, so you can see where it's going, disabled so it can't mislead. Text is the new one, what the text tab gives you. Layout, title, subtitle, description. 2 things I added that you didn't ask for. A hide panels button, bottom right. So check it out. So it's saying I gave you this hide panels thing so you can see what it looks like, in the same deal. And what it's saying, what it's talking about here, and I knew that this is what I wanted, but I'm giving it to it step by step. So here's all these controls that I have. So if I want to speed this thing up, watch this. Rotation speed. Speed it up to as fast as it'll go. That's top speed. Now the cloud speed is currently set to 1.5. That feels too fast to me. I'm going to slow that down to 1.2. And I'll slow this down so it's a little more. And if you look close, you can see that the clouds are moving slightly faster than the rest of the earth below it. So you got all these controls. The sun direction. Oops, that doesn't seem to be working right now. Sun height, yeah, that works. Sun brightness, right? All these controls, how cool is that? And that's just the earth part. And then the text part, you can come here and that's how I'm controlling earth. So Dane of Earth, that's the title, the size, I can control that. I can control the weight, make it fatter or thinner. I can control the color and so on and so on. Everything about these, okay? And that's where I left off. And then I came back over here, work, where it is. The save button is the right panel. We're going back and forth. So I said, looks good. I don't see the save button. How do I look? I gave it something that it's found useful. Oh, normies, effects. Yes. So I say, all right, let's get into normie. And it went into normie and it found them. Bounce, fast bounce, big bounce, spin, flips, axis, rotate, slide, cartwheels, parkour. Every one is an infinite loop running at constant speed. They're ambient motion. What you're describing is a different animal, a one-shot entrance that arrives and stops. That distinction matters. And you know, it describes, I told it what I wanted, and it, based on what I just described to it, it gave me exactly, these are the specs for how this tool is going to work. Spin direction, arc instead of a straight line, settle wobble, trigger, two I'd insist on, two things this needs that aren't effect parameters. And I just said, go. One image to start, but let's circle back to that because it's saying one thing worth deciding, one image or several. One is simpler and covers the lower left cutout. Several means each gets its own effect and the panel needs a way to pick which you're editing. I'd start with one and add more. And that's what I did. So that effect is, well, I'll show you. So if we come over here into effects, we have this image, and that's the Dane of Earth spin in. And here's the parameters for that. There's a delay, a 3-second delay. It lasts for 4 seconds. It goes through 2 rotations. And what that is creating is this spin in effect right here. Boom, that's it. Okay. And that's the one and only effect that I actually have set up so far. But I'm going to be able to go in and create all kinds of effects. And also that thing about the multiple effects. So what I can do, what the next effect I think I'm going to do is satellites. I'm going to make it so that we can have satellites circling the Earth and put them at any height, any orbit, all kinds of stuff, right? Oh my God, this is going to be so cool. So here's the thing. I only created this so that I could have a backdrop for my Dane of Earth videos. That's why I created this in the first place and oriented it like this. So you've seen my other video where I put my head right here. Okay. But I can't help it, man. I start thinking about what can I do next with this thing? And so here's what I have in mind right now. I was describing this to Rich earlier. This is how I see this working. I want to make this Earth right here clickable. So that if I click on any given spot right here, that click is going to pass the coordinates of what I clicked on to Google Maps. And Google Maps is going to zoom in on it. So I'm going to transition. That click is also going to transition the screen over to a Google Maps interface. So I'm just picturing, I'm working this through in my mind. How would that work? You know, you want to have a seamless kind of thing. So what I'm picturing is on this, you click, and the click triggers a white burst that from that origin point that spreads out and covers the entire screen in white, but like quick, instantly. And so it's just like a flash from the point that you clicked on. And in that flash is when it's going to switch over to the Google Maps screen. But I want to put that, you know, embedded in our own screen where I can do a flash that dissipates from in front of the Google Maps. So the way that looks is you click, boom, you see a flash. And then the next thing is that flash just dissolves, and all of a sudden you're in Google Maps and zooming in on the location that you just mapped on. Okay. So that's how my brain works. I start something like this, and then one thought leads to the next, and what can you do with that? Oh my God, I call this EarthBase, right? So it's just an interface to the incredible asset resource that is Google Maps, but it's my own interface where I can then orient people that are coming to it. right? So it's like my application. It's just using Google Maps on the back end. But I have the ability to capture leads, communicate with people that are engaging with it. You set up communities and etc. You see what I'm saying? So that's how my brain works. Uh, and so you can see how I end up with this giant accumulation of big, cool, awesome ideas that I just don't have the time or resources to do anything about. And that is the situation that I'm trying to deal with my life. I've got to turn all those ideas from liabilities, which is what they are to me right now. It's just stuff that occupies my brain cycles, right? That I could, if I was a more normal person and, you know, operated that way, I could be using those brain cycles to, you know, serve my employer better if I had an employer. But I haven't been able to do that. And my career probably suffered because my mind was too distracted thinking about these kinds of things. What I'm saying is all this creative brain of mine that just compulsively wants to drill in and solve more problems and come up with cool new solutions has been a liability for pretty much most of my life. And I'm trying to turn it into an asset. That's what Dane of Earth is all about.